morning, everyone. Welcome back to Which is the Moon. I'm your Monday hostess, Natalie, and today's topic, this week's topic is going to be runes or Ogham fuse. Everybody chose something different. I went ahead and chose the Ogham. I'm not going to discuss the entire Ogham. I just picked one Ogham that I use often in my sigil work, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I think we all try to pick just one to talk about. So what I want to explain a little bit about is that the Ogham are not runes. Runes are different. They come from Norse culture. The Ogham is actually the Druidic alphabet. It was given by Oma, the goddess, to Lu to protect his wife, to keep her from being taken into the underground. I have gotten some very good information about the Ogham alphabet and how it was developed and so forth by a gentleman out of Ireland. His name is John McMahon. So if he is watching this video, thank you so much for your information. It's been very useful. Now, the one that I want to talk about is actually air. This is what it looks like. The Ogham alphabet consisted of being down the straight line, and the reason that that was done was because they could use their fingers to mark it on the face, because they were forbidden from using this alphabet once they were taken over by other cultures. I don't remember if it was the Romans or the English, but they could use the line of the face to indicate, so they could just make the gestures and kind of basically communicate through sign. This is air. And this particular letter is the 18th letter of the Ogham alphabet. It's broken down into, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, so please forgive me, Acmes. There, I believe, are 3, if I remember what John told me correctly. This one happens to be the 18th letter. There is some evidence that there were letters added after Christianity kind of took hold, most likely because some of the priests were former Druids, and this was kind of their way of preserving that little bit of culture that they had, but it was meant in there. Now, air is related to the heather, the plant heather, or the bush heather. I believe it's a bush. We don't have heather here in the United States, so it's kind of something that's difficult to picture, but you've seen pictures of it. I actually had someone who sent me flowers from England once, and heather was in the bouquet, and it was lovely. We just don't have it growing here naturally. The thing about heather is that it's a very resilient plant. It grows pretty much anywhere it can take root, as my understanding is. And the information that John sent me was that air means fresh, new, or wet, but also green branch or young warrior. Heather itself in English is feminine, but in the Gaelic, and again, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this, frech, it's the opposite. It means like a fierce or a frenzy, which is why I think that I'm kind of drawn to that, because, of course, working with the Morrigan, she's known for her fury and for all of her fierceness, and so I've always kind of felt like I had to be a warrior in some capacity in my life. When I was a kid, I was picked on a lot, I was bullied a lot, so I had to stand up a lot of the time to people who were picking on me in really nasty ways, and even into adulthood that kind of continues. I'm working on that, doing some shadow work. There must be a reason. But this particular Ogham, I like to use it as part of the sigils. So I may use it as the main part of a sigil, and I'll branch off and make other things out of it. One thing I do want to mention about the Ogham, just for people who are unfamiliar with it, it was not read from top down, it's read from bottom up. So just keep that in mind. A lot of people are unaware of that. But he says that the shroud of the grave is associated with this particular letter, but it's not so much because it's an ending to something. It's quite the opposite. It's that even when the ground is kind of rocky and there's not a lot of soil, heather has an ability to take root. So it's related to strength and fierceness and ability to get ahead. So whenever I'm doing any kind of work, transformational work, I use this sigil as like a foundation. This Ogham is a foundation to my sigils for transformational work. Anytime I'm feeling a need for some sort of strength, sometimes I will write it on my wrist. I will also place it somewhere where I'm expecting there to be some sort of trouble. So if I'm expecting some sort of a conflict, I will actually write it somewhere on my body or on a piece of parchment paper and keep it either close to my heart or something like that to give me that little bit of extra boost in going into the battle and being prepared for that. Another thing that I use it for is inscribing it on candles in any kind of workings that I do where resilience or independence or new growth or the ability to kind of gain the upper hand no matter what is used. I would really, really like to see some sort of a tarot deck that incorporates the OM. Obviously, there's not a lot of OM signs. It's a small alphabet. They didn't have a lot of the same letters that we do, so it's short, so I don't know how you would do that, but it would be very interesting. I'm sure some of these could cross over on several different cards, but it would be really cool to see maybe even just a major arcana deck where they use somehow some of these signs. It would be really neat. But I use them also for divination purposes, and that's primarily what they're used for. I wrote some onto some popsicle sticks. I have a video on my personal channel. It's one of my older videos about how I was learning the OM and I did this. And I wrote them along with the Pictish alphabet and the meaning. And so that way I could kind of learn what they were. But this particular one was the one that I chose to talk about because it does cover resilience. It does cover a warrior spirit, that fighting kind of attitude that we sometimes need to get ahead in life. And so it's one that I use pretty frequently in a lot of my work, especially also, it sounds crazy, but I use it also in my abundance workings kind of as a base sigil as well, part of a larger sigil, simply because to me, money comes and goes. In my line of work as a speech pathologist, my private practice, things kind of come and go. It goes up, it goes down. Clients come, they leave. Sometimes kids don't qualify, or clients no longer need you, or the insurance won't cover it, or things like that. And so it's a constant ever fight to keep the business going. It's really kind of tiring. But this sigil definitely helps me in doing some money workings and keeping that money resilient, keeping the business resilient. So I have inscribed it with an oil into the doors and of my business, all of the doors of my business, inside and out. And so I find that that really helps to draw in a good energy to my practice. So I realize it's not a great big long video. I'm trying to see if there's any information he put on here that I need to add. Just says this letter shows a warrior spirit, fierceness, resilience, and independence. 18th letter of the OM. This picture I took from a website. Can't remember what it is at this point, so I'm sorry if anybody knows the source. I would love to give it, but if you Google image it, that's where I found it. So if you go under Google Images and you just put in air, it's pronounced air, I believe, but it's U-R, so we would say but I believe it's air. You can just find this picture and that will tell you the source. And then again, my information itself comes from my friend John in Ireland, who was so kind as to send me this information on the entire alphabet in 3 different emails. So thank you so much. Get out there and explore it. It's really a neat kind of alphabet and communication system, and I find that it's really unique. I will tell you that the spacing between the lines has meaning. It changes the OM, so make sure that you're paying attention to the spacing. And what I mean by that is see how even the space is between these 3 lines. If these 2 were up a little higher and this one was lower, it would actually change it. So make sure that you pay attention to that when you're using it. But it is really a wonderful symbol to use in any kind of sigil working. So it really adds that extra boost of warrior oomph to your working. So get out there and explore it. It's really neat. Thank you so much for watching. Blessed be, and have a wonderful day.